So I've made quite a few Leaks and Rumors episodes on the iPhone 8, but I haven't actually talked that much about the iPhone 7s. So as most of you probably know by now, Apple's actually releasing 3 new iPhone models this year. So the iPhone 7s, the iPhone 7s Plus, and then the flagship, that major redesign that we've seen, and I've showed you in quite a few mock-ups of that. So that's most likely going to be called the iPhone 8 or the iPhone Pro or the iPhone X or the iPhone Edition, or maybe just the iPhone, in order to match the new naming scheme that we've had with the 2017 iPads. Now, the iPhone 8 is definitely going to be the most exciting one of the bunch, but we know that it's going to be expensive, much more expensive than the iPhone 7. So what about the iPhone 7s? Not a lot of people are talking about the iPhone 7s. I've only done 2 Leaks and Rumors episodes on the iPhone 7s, so welcome to my final Leaks and Rumors series. And in this video, I'll be covering everything you need to know about the upcoming iPhone 7s and the iPhone 7s Plus. So yeah, grab some popcorn or any snacks. You'll need a lot of snacks for this video. And yeah, enjoy. Okay, so starting off with number 1, we have the design. So design-wise, the iPhone 8 is getting some major changes, and almost bezel-less design, a much smaller form factor. The iPhone 8 is basically the biggest design change ever since the original iPhone. But what about the iPhone 7s? Well, the front is actually going to be exactly the same as the iPhone 7 front, which in the end was exactly the same as the iPhone 6s front, which it was exactly the same as the iPhone 6 front. So yeah, no dimension changes on the front at least. However, the back is getting a full makeover. You're getting a glass back instead of the aluminum back that we've gotten so used to ever since the iPhone 6. This obviously means that the phone is just going to be a full finger magnet and smudge magnet. But honestly, for me personally, I do prefer a glass back over an aluminum one. I know that is a bit weird, but I really like the way glass looks and reflects light. So yeah, let me know in the comments, which one do you prefer, glass back or aluminum back? Now, when it comes to the colors, the iPhone 7 came in 6 colors. So we had silver, gold, rose gold, then we had black, jet black, and then we had the new product red color. So yeah, 6 new colors, 6 colors for the iPhone 7. Now the iPhone 8 is only going to come in 3 colors, so that would be black, silver, and we're also getting a brand new color, which is this new blush gold color. So I think this is how it's going to be called. This is what the new the latest reports are saying, blush gold. And this one actually looks really good. It kind of reminds me of this leather iPhone case. So what about the colors for the iPhone 7s? Now, we're not 100% sure yet, so it's most likely going to come in the exact same colors as the iPhone 8. So that would be 3 colors, especially since now we have a glass back. So this means that the matte black version of the iPhone 7 is not going to be included with the iPhone 7s. And also, having the same 3 colors across the entire iPhone lineup would make the entire iPhone lineup much more uniform. By the way, Apple might make the new blush gold color exclusive to the iPhone 8. So yeah, if this is the case, then the iPhone 7s will only come in black and silver, and then we'll have black, silver, and that blush new gold for the iPhone 8. Moving on to number 2, we have the display. So do we get any display changes on the iPhone 7s? Well, we might get 2 display changes. So when it comes to the display size is actually going to remain the same as we have on the iPhone 7. So that would be a 4.7 inches display on the iPhone 7s and a 5.5 inches display on the iPhone 7s Plus. And the resolution is also going to remain exactly the same. So that's 1334 by 750, and that would actually translate to a PPI of 326. So that would be for the iPhone 7s, same as on the iPhone 7. And on the iPhone 7s Plus, same 1080p display, which translates to a PPI of 401. So yeah, no resolution or display size changes on the iPhone 7s. Now, when it comes to the actual display panel, on the iPhone 8, we're getting an OLED display, which is simply the best display panel tech you can get right now. Now, this is only going to be the case for the iPhone 8. The iPhone 7s is still going to come with an LCD panel, same as with every single other iPhone. So no display panel improvements on the iPhone 7s either. Now, the display on the iPhone 7s is still going to be a DCI-P3 display, so same as with the iPhone 7. However, we might get a pretty big improvement, and that's in terms of the refresh rate. So with the 2017 iPad Pros, we get this new ProMotion display. Now, this is actually a 120 Hertz display panel, and what this means is that the entire UI, so everything you do on an iPad Pro 2017, is actually twice as fluid as the previous generation, because now you get 120 Hertz versus 60 Hertz, which basically means that you can now see up to 120 frames per second, up from 60 frames per second. This is most likely coming to the iPhone 8, and it also has a pretty strong chance of making it into the iPhone 7s as well. Now, this is actually a really useful feature because one, everything you do on an iPhone or an iPad is twice more fluid than before, so that's obviously awesome to have. But the second reason why it's really cool is because it also supports a dynamic refresh rate. So the refresh rate basically adjusts automatically depending on what you are watching. So for example, if you're watching a YouTube video, it would adjust to 30 Hertz. If you're watching a Netflix movie, that would be 24 Hertz, and so on. So yeah, not only would this make games and everything look twice more fluid, that would look amazing, but it will also help preserve battery life. So yeah, this is most likely coming on the iPhone 8 and most likely on the iPhone 7s as well. Okay, now moving on to the actual specs. So spec-wise, the reason why this is called an iPhone 7s and not, an iPhone 7 with a glass back is because we're actually getting a pretty big performance boost. So we are getting the brand new Apple A11 processor, which is now based on a smaller 10nm process. And then the Apple A11 processor is now going to be fully manufactured, so solely manufactured by TSMC. So Apple now has an exclusive deal with TSMC, and actually the same thing happened with the iPhone 7. So all Apple A10 processors were manufactured by TSMC. Before, the A9 was Samsung and TSMC, but now it's just TSMC alone. And being based on a smaller 10nm process means that the chip is not just much faster than the Apple A10 chip, which was already a monster in performance, but it will also consume less power, so it will actually improve battery life, which obviously everyone wants. Now, the Geekbench scores, by the way, for the Apple A11 processors have been leaked quite a while ago, actually. So I believe I mentioned this even back in February, I think. But yeah, the Geekbench scores for the Apple A11 processors have been leaked, and here they are. So 4600 for the single-core score, and 8500 for the multi-core, which is just crazy. So just to give you an idea, the Apple A10 processor, which is already the most powerful mobile processor, smartphone processor at least, that you can get, that one scored 3200 in the single core and 5500 as the multi-core. So yeah, that's a pretty massive improvement from the iPhone 7. And yeah, in case you're wondering, the Apple A11 processor is more powerful, single core wise at least, than even the top of the line 13-inch 2017 MacBook Pro, which is pretty surprising. And it's also really close in performance to the Intel i7-7920 HQ processor, which, in case you don't know, this is the flagship Kaby Lake processor from Intel for a laptop. So this is the mobile flagship for 2017. And that's actually the same processor that you get in the maxed out 2017 15-inch MacBook Pro. So the 3.1 GHz one, that's the one. And that's an almost 4,000 pound computer. In the iPhone 7s and the iPhone 8 with the Apple 11 processor are pretty close in performance to that computer, single core wise at least, which is just crazy if you think about it. So in terms of the processor performance, we are getting some really big improvements. But then the question is, do you actually need that much performance in a smartphone? I mean, yeah, you can basically edit 4K video on an iPhone with iMovie, which is cool, but you can even do that with the iPhone 7 and even the iPhone 6s. So do you actually need that much performance? I would say no. Obviously, Apple will be adding more and more features in the future with future iOS updates, and they will be making these phones slower. So it's a pretty good future-proof device, I would say. But no, other than that, you don't need that much performance. Okay, so CPU-wise, Apple A11 processor, but what about the actual amount of RAM on the iPhone 7s? So RAM-wise, we are getting the exact same amount as on the iPhone 7. So 3 GB on the iPhone 7s Plus, and then 2 GB in the iPhone 7s. But iOS has a really good RAM management, and if you want to check out my ultimate speed test between different devices, such as the iPhone 7 with 2 GB of RAM, the OnePlus 2 or Samsung Galaxy S7, Samsung Galaxy S8, and so on, those phones actually come with 4 GB of RAM. The iPhone 7 and the iPhone 6s only come with 2, and the iPhone actually outperformed these devices by a mile when it comes to RAM management. So if you want to check out those videos, they're pretty cool and in-depth ultimate speed tests, link in the description. But yeah, this is everything in terms of the performance. Okay, so what about the camera? Everyone likes taking photos with their smartphone cameras, so is the camera getting any changes on the iPhone 7s? Yes, quite a few changes. So the back-facing camera, the sensor is going to remain the same, so 12 megapixel sensor. And then on the iPhone 7s Plus, we're still getting that dual camera module, like on the iPhone 7 Plus, and then still a single camera module on the iPhone 7s, like on the iPhone 7. The iPhone 8 is also getting a dual camera module, but yeah, the iPhone 7s is only getting a single one. Now, this time we are getting a few changes and improvements with that dual camera module on the iPhone 7s Plus. So, for example, we now have optical image stabilization on both camera modules. Before, on the iPhone 7, we only had OIS on the main lens, so not the telephoto one. And speaking of the wide-angle lens, it's also getting an aperture improvement. So aperture-wise, we had f1.8 on the iPhone 7 and also the iPhone 7 Plus's main camera module. And then on the telephoto and the zoom lens, we actually had an f2.8 aperture on the iPhone 7 Plus. The iPhone 7s is getting an improvement from f1.8 to about f1.7, so either f1.8 or same f1.7, and then on the iPhone 7s Plus we're getting same f1.8 on the main lens, and then f2.4 to f2.2 for the telephoto lens. And among with that optical image stabilization on the telephoto lens, this basically means that if you're getting an iPhone 7s Plus, it's actually going to be much better in low light, at least when it comes to that zoom lens. So when you're taking zoomed in shots with 2x optical zoom, they're going to be much better in low light than on the iPhone 7 Plus. Okay, so what about the front-facing camera? Well, the front-facing camera is also getting some pretty big changes. So resolution-wise, it's going to be increased from 7 megapixels to actually 9 or 12 megapixels. And I'll get to why in a second. Now, aperture-wise, this is also going to be increased. So from f2.2, like we had on the iPhone 7, to f1.8. So yeah, same as with the back-facing camera, the front-facing one is actually going to be much better in low light. However, the biggest camera change is going to be in terms of video. So we're now getting 4K video at 60 frames per second. And that's for both the front-facing camera and back-facing camera, which is a bit weird, having 4K at 60 on the front-facing camera. And not only this, but we're also getting some improvement when it comes to slow motion. So from 720p to 40 frames per second, which was what we had before on the iPhone 6s and the iPhone 7. And now we're getting 1080p up to 240 frames per second. So pretty big improvement in quality there as well. Now, iOS 11 and macOS Sierra, they actually support something called H.265 or HEVC. So this is a codec. This handles all the video encoding and decoding. And basically what this means is that 4K videos would actually take 50% less space at the exact same quality. So for example, a 4K video at 60 frames per second will actually occupy the same space, the same storage space as a 4K video at 30 frames per second. And then a 4K video at 30 frames per second would actually occupy half of the amount of space a 4K video 30 frames per second did on in iOS 10, for example, or an iPhone 7. So this is pretty awesome. Now the iPhone 8 is coming with a 3D front-facing capable camera, capable of measuring depth using the iris scanner, using the infrared receiver and transmitter and so on. So yeah, it will be able to measure depth, recognize your face, use Face ID to unlock your phone, Apple Pay, and so many cool new front-facing camera features on the iPhone 8. However, these would not be included on the iPhone 7s. So these are only features that are going to be exclusive to the iPhone 8, not the iPhone 7s. So yeah. Okay, moving on to the special features. Remember when I said that the iPhone 7s is coming with a brand new glass back? Well, the reason for that is actually the first and the main special feature that the iPhone 7s is going to come with. And that's actually wireless charging. So yeah, both the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 7s are coming with wireless charging support. Now, even though this might sound amazing, it's not really that exciting. So we were all expecting to see Apple implement true wireless charging on the iPhone 8 and even the iPhone 7s, sort of like Enquiries did with WhatsApp. So WhatsApp is their product, and this basically allows you to charge a device wirelessly over a 5-meter radius, basically, through radio waves, essentially. So this is not going to happen with the iPhones, unfortunately, at least not in 2017. We are still getting wireless charging. However, it's going to be induction-based wireless charging. So same as we've seen with the Samsung Galaxy S8 and the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus, the S7, and yeah, pretty much any Android smartphone that supported wireless charging, it supported induction-based wireless charging. So this means that you would need to purchase, by the way, a wireless charging dock, which Apple will be selling you, separately. And this is most likely going to be around $100 or 70 to 80 pounds. So it's not going to be cheap. And speaking of this, reports are saying that the wireless charging dock for the iPhone 8 and 7s won't actually be released anytime soon. So definitely not alongside the iPhone 8's release or the iPhone 7s release, which is going to be in September, but a few months later. So most likely December or maybe even early January and such. So yeah, this is actually not caused by the production issues, but instead by the software itself. So this will only be supported in iOS 11.1, by the way, which is coming out later this year. Okay, so what else? Well, apart from wireless charging, we don't really expect any new features except from a water resistance improvement. So from IP67 to IP68, which is a pretty nice improvement. IP67 basically meant, the 7th, the 6th means full dust protection, and the seventh meant 1 meter depth up to 30 minutes, and now basically 8 means more than 1 meter of depth. So usually it's 1.5 meters up to 30 minutes, so that's for smartphones. This is what Samsung advertises on the S7 and the S8, so I'm guessing that this is most likely going to be the case with the iPhone 7s and the iPhone 8 as well. So up to 1.5 meters from 1 meter up to 30 minutes. Moving on to section number 6, that's 5, 6. What's the deal with the battery? Are we getting any battery improvements? So battery-wise, we aren't expecting any serious battery size increases. So pretty much the same as on the iPhone 7. So that's 1960 on the iPhone 7s and 2900 on the iPhone 7s Plus. So pretty much the same as on the iPhone 7. However, we might still see a small improvement in the actual battery life since, the Apple A11 processor is more power efficient since it's based on a smaller process. And then that ProMotion display would also help improve the battery life. But yeah, overall expect pretty much the same battery life as on the iPhone 7, maybe just a tiny bit better than what we had with the iPhone 7s. Moving on to section number 7, we have the models and the capacity. So in terms of the storage options, we are getting 32, 128, and 256 with the iPhone 7s. And then with the iPhone 8, we're only getting 2 storage options. So that's 64 and 256. Now, chances are that Apple might actually remove the 256GB option for the iPhone 7s completely and only have 32 and 128 for the iPhone 7s and then 64 and 256 for the iPhone 8. Now, when it comes to the actual pricing would be pretty much the same on the iPhone 7s as the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 7 Plus. However, what Apple might do, by the way, is price the 64GB iPhone 8 the same as a 256GB iPhone 7 Plus, so around $1,000. I really don't think that it's going to be that expensive, but that would be one way to differentiate the iPhone 8 from the iPhone 7s. Of course, that a second way to make the iPhone 7s cheaper would be, to have it even cheaper than the iPhone 7. But that's obviously not going to happen. I really don't see this happening. So 7S same price as the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus, and then the iPhone 8 even more expensive than that. Okay, so finally in terms of the release date, when is the iPhone 7s going to be announced and released? Well, the iPhone 7s is definitely going to be announced and released next month in September. Now, we've actually had quite a few reports saying that the iPhone 8 would only be announced in September, but actually delayed until December or even early next year. But it seems that this won't be the case anymore. So this means that we'll be getting both the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 7s both announced and released next month in September. So in the end, what do you guys think about the iPhone 7s? Would you actually pick an iPhone 7s if the iPhone 8 is going to be crazy expensive, or would you still go with the iPhone 8 regardless? Let me know in the comments which one would you guys pick. And also, if you want to see more iPhone 7s and iPhone 8 coverage, feel free to subscribe to my channel. It's it's free. And you can also turn on notifications by simply tapping on that bell icon, and that way you would actually get a notification whenever I upload a brand new epic video. Check out my previous Leaks and Rumors episodes on the iPhone 8 in case you want to know more about the iPhone 8, and also I've also done a video on the Apple Watch Series 3. So final Leaks and Rumors on the Apple Watch Series 3, which is actually coming out next month in September as well. And other than that, let me know in the comments if you're epically epic enough to make it until the end of this really long and in-depth video. I was trying to speak as fast as I could because I wanted to cover everything really quickly and not extend this video. Pretty much what I'm doing right now. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'm Daniel. cheers to you for making it until the end. I'm Daniel, and yeah, Zone of Tech signing out. So cheers to you and to me and you. Yeah, cool. See you guys in my next video. Yeah. Awkward ending. Yeah.